Hi, students. So, today we're going to study Shakespeare. The reason why we had to study Shakespeare today, apart from the fact that we're getting marks, okay? Yeah. So, what makes him relevant in our lives today? I mean, he's a guy who lived centuries ago, right? So, why should we study Shakespeare today? What makes him relevant? So, it's important not just for your marks, not just for those grades, but in the larger sense of life. All right. So let's go ahead with Shakespeare. So we see here that William Shakespeare was born in 1564 in a little town called Stratford upon Avon. Now, this is a small market town, and of course, it's in England. And here I've just got some pictures for you. You could just check that out. I've even got a map. And he's often known as the Bard of Avon. Why? Because the bard means a poet or a storyteller, and as we all know, that Shakespeare is absolutely legendary in the stories and the poems that he wrote and he has left for us to enjoy. Okay, really enjoy. Okay, all right. Now, Avon, of course, is his hometown, so he obviously, he made his hometown proud, and so he's definitely known as the Bard of Avon. And he lived in this hometown till around 1616. So here we have a little insight into Shakespeare's home, and it's said that he was born in this room, and that's, obviously there were no photographs there. So Shakespeare was the eldest of 8 children. Okay, so maybe as the elder brother, he had to tell a lot of stories to his siblings, and he practiced for us. All right, so the family lived on Henley Street, and this house has now come to be known as Shakespeare's birthplace. All right, so it looks really quaint, nice big windows, and yeah. So Shakespeare's father was John Shakespeare, who was a glove maker, and the mother was Mary Arden, and she was a farmer's daughter. All right. Shakespeare, of course, goes on later to marry Anne Hathaway, and we'll go through that in little detail a little later. So he had 3 children: Susanna Shakespeare, all right, the her 1583 to 1649, and there was Hamlet, who was the son. All right, he was a twin, and he passed away pretty early at the age of 11, and that tragedy, it took its toll on Shakespeare. And we can see some of the lines that Shakespeare writes, those in-depth, painful lines, is, it's like a father talking about the loss that he had for his son. So you can see how Shakespeare, when you read those lines, you'll feel the pain. All right, that's why I'm saying enjoy Shakespeare's writings. They're really good. And then, of course, he had a daughter also, and her name was Judith Shakespeare. And Hamlet and Judith were, I think, twins, because see, the year is the same. But Hamlet unfortunately died, of course, when he was 11. Now we speak about Anne Hathaway, all right, the love of Shakespeare's life. So she was born in 1556, and she and William Shakespeare, they got married in 1582 when she became Mrs. Shakespeare. All right, she was 26 years old and he happened to be 18. And of course, I've already told you that they had 3 children, and they went through, all the ups and downs of life together. So this is a picture of her house, and this is some portrait of hers, and of course, there are some really sweet, snippets that people have recreated and put on canvas. So I tried to share that with you. And look at this garden; it's absolutely spectacular, isn't it beautiful? And well, she must have been a remarkable woman, right? The best days, they say, of a person's life is the school life, right? So Shakespeare also went to school. It was the Stratford Grammar School, and now it's known as King Edward VI School. This was established in 1553, all right, and it offered obviously a very rigorous curriculum for Latin and classical literature, and we'll see how that is reflected in his writings. So the school is now affectionately, you know, Shakespeare's school. I mean, who wouldn't want to, say I went to Shakespeare school? Which student wouldn't? So Shakespeare had been to this school. He studied a lot, and the only difference between, what Shakespeare studied and what you are studying is that Shakespeare didn't have to study Shakespeare, right? And here we see how his this education influenced and laid the foundation of his writings, the things that we enjoy. And at school he studied Latin extensively, reading from the works of Roman writers like Ovid and Plutarch, right? And Ovid, of course, he absorbed in myths and gods and heroes, magical transformation, which later appears in his, his plays like Midsummer's Night Dream. And Plutarch, parallel lives, gave him real life stories of Romans and Greek leaders, inspiring historical plays like Julius Caesar and Macbeth that, you have the fortunate chance of studying deeply. He also learnt grammar, all right, and a lot of persuasive writing, and you can see that in the way he shaped his dialogue and speeches and poetic lines, and the sonnets and all that you're going to enjoy um, during these plays as you study them. Okay, so these skills made him the master of languages. All right, it enabled him to express, complex emotion and deeply. It's not just surface stuff that he writes. Like people who are going through that, if they read that, it's almost like a mirror for them, and he's able to express these ideas with such a lot of clarity and beauty, and put yourself in the shoes of these characters and put yourself in real life situations also, and Shakespeare is relevant today. All right. When he moved to London, Shakespeare used to use this rich foundation that he had, all right, to become first an actor, all right, and then a playwright. And he wrote around 37, all right, to 39 plays. It's a little debatable. And 154 sonnets, all right, and a few of these long narrative poems that are absolute astonishing, works of art. And these works are celebrated worldwide. I mean, people are learning from that. They are studied. Each and every line, each and every word of his. So they are still studied. Okay, and like everything he studied as a young boy, mythology, history, language is fed into these stories, characters, poetry, and all this has made him timeless. Right? Really, his works, they've transcended time. Even today, they feel real and relevant. Of course, there's those, your little words that you guys have today, but I'm telling you, like if you really read them, this it's so relevant. We just use his words all the time. We'll see that later also. In short, you can say that Shakespeare schooling wasn't just learning facts, okay? It wasn't just rote memory. It was the seed that grew into one of the greatest literary minds in history. All right, so you are going to you go on this journey of learning his plays, and I hope, I just hope that you too enjoy this journey. So Shakespeare first found success under Queen Elizabeth I, performing with the acting troupe Lord Chamberlain's Men. During her reign, he wrote comedies, histories full of wit, humor, and the English pride. Plays like Midsummer's Night Dream, The Merry Wives of Windsor, and the Chronicles of English Kings entertained the audiences, while celebrating their culture. After her passing, King James the First became his patron, and the troupe was renamed uh, to the King's Men. Right, under James's, reign, Shakespeare's writing took on a darker tone. Okay, his quill explored ambition, fate, and the supernatural, giving us masterpieces like what you're going to study, Macbeth, all right, and other tragedies where witches, prophecy, and human desire begin to shape history. So, in both the reigns, you can see a total difference and the versatility of Shakespeare. You can see that. And Shakespeare just adapted to the tastes and the mood of the times. He combined his, the education and the classical knowledge he gained as a schoolboy with the world of the royal court, creating works that have captivated the audiences still today. So, the Globe Theatre, the iconic Globe Theatre, built in 1599, was the heart of Shakespeare's world, the very place where most of his plays came to life. All right, it was built of timber, and it was a round open air playhouse, and it was large enough to hold 3,000 spectators. The theatre itself was a lively, bustling place. It had that atmosphere about it. The wealthy sat comfortably in covered balconies, or galleries rather, enjoying the performances from above, just like we have in our theatre. We have balcony seats, so, so little more expensive. So it's up there. All right. And they enjoyed, they got a better view of the performance. But that doesn't mean the common folk were left out. Right? They were known as the groundlings because they were on the ground level, and they paid just one penny to stand in the open pit right in front of the stage. They laughed and cheered and sometimes even shouted at the actors, making the Globe a place full of energy and excitement. The stage itself projected into the crowd. It wasn't hidden away, or it wasn't, the modern day screen. So it was projected into the crowd, drawing the audience close to action. Now, there were no spotlights or microphones, during that time. And the power of Shakespeare's words, the skill of the actors, brought the story to life. All right. From Romeo and Juliet to Hamlet, Macbeth, the Globe Theatre was where Shakespeare's genius truly met the people. A place where art, language, and life came together under the open sky. Now, just like in life, we have ups and downs. So, the same thing happened with the Globe Theatre. And in 1613, during a performance of Henry VIII, disaster struck. A stage cannon, that was used for dramatic effect, accidentally sparked a flame. Within minutes, the thatched roof and the timber structure caught ablaze, and the whole theatre was reduced to ashes. The actors and the spectators thankfully escaped, and no one was hurt. So it was a miracle, and thankfully so. So the place that once, resounded and echoed with laughter, applause, and Shakespeare's words was reduced to ashes in a couple of hours. But of course, the story didn't end there, and we're extremely grateful for that because Shakespeare's company refused to give up hope. With determination and with the support of the loyal patrons, the Globe was rebuilt the very next year, stronger and grander than before. So, once again, it opened its doors to the people of London, ready to host the timeless tales of the bard. So, the Globe Theatre was rebuilt in 1614, uh, rising proudly from the ashes of the fire. And in this, Shakespeare was a shareholder, right? So, as wonderful as he was as a writer, he was also a businessman, and so he was deeply connected to its fortunes. Its success was his success, and upon the stage, many of his greatest works came to life once more. You know, his words echoing through the open air, captivating the audiences with every uh, word that came out of the actors' uh, mouths, every expression. And though the Globe Theatre was not built solely for him alone, it became inseparable to his name and legacy. Many other geniuses also presented their work there, uh, but of course, he's the one who's most famously known. And the globe stands as a symbol of Shakespeare's genius. Um, it stands as a symbol of where his stories continue to live, breathe, and inspire the world. And now the focal point of the Globe Theatre, or any theatre, but here we're talking about the Globe Theatre, is the stage. The stage at the Globe Theatre was surprisingly simple. There were no curtains, no spotlights, no elaborate scenery, just a wooden platform under the open sky. To bring each story to life, actors relied upon their voices, gestures, and costumes. Their energy and expression painted the scenes that the audience imagined. Now, the secondary characters. They played a very vital role. They helped to explain the events and move the plot forward, often adding a touch of humor or comic relief to balance the drama. Thus, you have these long speeches or descriptive speeches in Shakespeare's dramas. In this way, without special effects or grand sets, the magic of Shakespeare's theatre came entirely from the power of performance and language. We only have a few examples of Shakespeare's handwriting that survives today, mainly his signatures, some notes, and legal documents. The style in which he has signed is known as the secretary style. It was taught in schools and it was very native to that time period. And it's a little different from what is taught today. Mm, and it might become a little difficult, to read his handwriting, but this is the handwriting that produced this wonderful legacy that we are so going to enjoy on this journey. Now, Shakespeare's plays, they're absolutely timeless. The reason? He didn't write about something up in the air or any hullabaloo or anything like that. Well, yeah, but okay. So he wrote about life itself. He wrote about our dreams. He wrote about our flaws and our hearts. Um, for example, in Macbeth and in Julius Caesar, he talks about ambition, how it burns and then destroys everything. In Romeo and Juliet, he talked about love daring to bloom even in the shadow of hate. Um, Fate and choice, they wrestle in Hamlet and Othello, and the truth hides behind masks in King Lear. So, through every tale, he reminds us Though centuries have passed, the human heart hasn't changed. In Shakespeare's world, order and chaos, they dance together because he's woven them so beautifully into the fabric of his plays. Um, Kingdoms crumble in King Lear and Macbeth, yet laughter restores the balance in A Midsummer's Night Dream. Jealousy and betrayal poison the hearts in Othello and in Julius Caesar. You'll study that. Um, Shattering trust and friendship. Et tu, Brute. All right. And then we have there's disguise and there's discovery in Twelfth Night and in The Tempest. We see how identity transforms and the truth is finally revealed, something that the audience must have been looking forward to. In Hamlet and in Sonnet 73, he reflects on mortality, the meaning of life, asking what it truly means to live and to die. And in Romeo and Juliet and King Lear, the conflict between generations reminds us that wisdom and love must bridge the gap between youth and age. So, all in all, Shakespeare's words endure because he wrote not just for his time, but apparently for all time. Now, Shakespeare didn't just give us great plays, he gave us a richer English language. Over 1700 words and phrases that we still use today were born from his imagination. For example, we say break the ice, and this happens when we're trying to start a new conversation with someone who's either a stranger and we're trying to get to know the person, or with someone who we've had a tiff with and we're trying to make up. And this came from The Taming of the Shrew. Don't get tamed. Then another personal favorite of mine, The World's My Oyster, reminds us that life is full of opportunities. All right, and this comes from The Merry Wives of Windsor. Then we've got another one. When someone has landed himself in a bit of trouble, then we say he's in a pickle. And that means he's in a problematic situation. And that comes from The Tempest. So these are just some of his phrases. We're going to see some more. So here we've got a few more phrases that we again use in everyday speech. Seen better days. So this is when life is uh, at present pretty tough, but it used to be better. So we'll say that he or she has seen better days. All right. It can even be used for a thing that, oh my, this looks terrible today, and it's seen better days. All right. Then we've got another one, good riddance. And this is when we're glad that somebody has left. So it could be somebody or something when we've got rid of that and that's gone, it's not there anymore. So then we can say good riddance. Right? Then we've got forever and a day. So this is when love feels endless. So here I've put up a cute little picture of a kid and a puppy, and this is when love is there forever. Right? Then we've got love is blind. And we all know this is when the heart doesn't see the flaws and we look at love through rose tinted glasses, or it's blind actually, no glasses, it's blind. And this has even been translated. So we know that love is blind. Now we've all got that one friend that eats up all our tiffin or something or the other. All right. So that is eaten out of house and home. So this is when someone consumes more than their fare share. Um, Now, if you've noticed, I've not named the place for this slide. So I'd like you in the comment section if you can do some research and uh, get to know which place they come from. Now, through wit, wisdom, and rhythm, Shakespeare turned these ordinary words into poetry. And centuries later, his language still shapes the way we speak, think, and feel. A living reminder that his quill changed English forever. Now, Shakespeare's stories, they never grow old. That's been established. They simply change costumes. Across the centuries and screens, his words and ideas have found new voices and new worlds. For example, the West Side Story becomes the modern day Romeo and Juliet. The Lion King roars with the spirit of Hamlet. And 10 Things I Hate About You brings the taming of the shrew into high school halls. From black and white classics to dazzling modern twists, directors have reimagined the bard's work for every generation. His timeless themes, jealousy, ambition, love, still fuel the stories we watch today. Uh, because whether it's on stage or on screen, in verse or in film, Shakespeare lives on, speaking to every heart, every age, and every language. The bard's influence didn't just stop at the stage. Countless writers have borrowed from his themes, characters, and language, finding inspiration in his timeless vision of humanity. One of my favorites, Charles Dickens, wove Shakespeare's words into his novels, quoting him more than any other author. From Great Expectations to David Copperfield, his pages shimmer with Shakespeare's spirit. Through centuries, his words whisper through books, stories, proving that Shakespeare doesn't just belong to the past. He lives in every writer who dreams, questions, and creates. So, Shakespeare isn't just another playwright, he's the key to understanding culture in many parts of the world. His words and stories help us to catch references in books, in films, in speeches, and even in everyday conversations. Without him, or without his writings rather, we risk missing hidden layers in the meaning of art, literature, and humor, because his works form a shared cultural language. They connect people across time, space, and generations. By learning his works, or rather studying his plays, we don't just read, we read the world with richer eyes, seeing the echoes of his imagination everywhere. So he isn't locked in the 16th century. He lives in our books, in our films, in everyday words. He is a genius of characters, language, and insight, whose vision transcends his own time. Shakespeare belongs to all time, speaking to every generation in every corner of the world. In the end, I'd like to tell you that don't think of Shakespeare as boring or just for exams. He didn't write for any tests or grades. He wrote to entertain, inspire, and explore the human heart. His plays and poems let you step into other worlds, laugh, fall in love, and even plot a little mischief. Studying Shakespeare isn't about memorizing rules and chasing grades. It's about exploring the human emotions, imagination, and wit, opening doors to worlds both magical and real. Let his words be a source of joy and wonder and inspiration, not a burden to bear. Watch, read, and perform his stories, and discover how the bard can entertain, surprise, and delight you, even centuries later. Most of all, have fun with Shakespeare's plays. Let his imagination spark your own.